Hey, Eagle fans, before we start today's video, give me your mailbag questions for our Friday and weekend mailbags down below in the comment section right now using the hashtag Eagles. Just type hashtag Eagles, ask me a question, and if it's a good one, I'll more than likely pull it and we'll talk about it in a mailbag video in the coming days and weeks. Alright, so today's Eagles video to me is fascinating and one that's been heavily requested because a lot of people obviously understand that practice and training camp and the pads are all on right now, but who is performing well and who's been struggling in training camp? Well, have no fear. I have been following training camp from afar. I'm obviously not there, but I've been following it through the eyes of a lot of other, Eagle beat writers, Eagle reporters, and trying to figure out who looks good, watching the film, who looks bad, and now we have my 4 winners so far from Eagles training camp and my 4 losers so far from Eagles training camp. I will say this, though, a lot more winners and a lot more good news coming out of Eagles training camp than bad news, so that's good. But let's go and start with the first winner who's been absolutely fantastic by all accounts. Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver, obviously the 21st overall pick. He has been absolutely incredible in training camp and is getting a ton of praise, not just from beat writers and reporters watching on the sideline, but from his fellow teammates. Carson Wentz is in love with Jalen Reagor, and it's obviously showing their connection early on. The good news is he's working on both the X and the Y receiver positions, both the inside and the outside receiving positions, which is hard for rookie young wide receivers to do, and yet he's been able to do that so far. I love what I'm hearing and seeing out of Jalen Reagor. They've also worked him out at kick return as well, so you could see him as, DeSean Jackson 2.0, right? When DeSean Jackson was younger, he was explosive, he returned punts. It feels like Jalen Reagor is obviously learning from DeSean Jackson and looking good at the exact same time. And he was asked about this Carson Wentz, Julio Jones comparison. He said this, quote, this is Reagor talking about Carson Wentz. Quote, we watched a lot of clips with our routes and stuff like that, and he just says, you're explosive like Julio Jones. You can run flat, fast, you can jump high. So he compares me to a lot of receivers. He's getting a ton of praise, and Carson Wentz, I think this is going to be one of his favorite targets the entire NFL season. I'm going to say this about the wide receivers as a whole group. They've looked very, very good. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside back at practice today. He was working out with the ones. DeSean Jackson's looked very, very good as well. He almost made this list. There have been a lot of bright spots at wide receiver, which was obviously a mega issue for Philadelphia last year. There were some people in the NFL Network saying the Eagles are going to be scoring a ton of points based on who and what they've seen from Eagles training camp. So good news overall. First winner has got to be Jalen Reagor. Give this video a thumbs up just for the fact that Reagor is already turning heads, right? People were criticizing him being a 21st overall draft pick, and yet now, yeah, it's like this guy's going to be really, really good. Give us a thumbs up right now for Jalen Reagor. Another wide receiver, again, not named DeSean Jackson, who's turned a lot of heads, is a kind of a surprise. That's why I'm bringing him up. Quez Watkins. Yes, Quez Watkins, the 201st overall draft pick, has been a bright spot in training camp. He's worked out with the ones, he's been in the twos, and he's been in a lot with Jalen Hurts and working out with the threes, and has been a deep threat and a guy that we once thought would be a practice squad guy, but with Alshon Jeffrey starting off on the PUP list, he's most likely going to go ahead and make the active 53-man roster. And it looks like he's not just going to go ahead and make the roster, he's going to have a pretty decent impact. I think both him and John Hightower are going to have an impact, although you'll notice John Hightower not on this list just because Watkins has received better praise overall. Now, again, they're not going to be starters in the Eagles 53-man, wide receiver depth chart, but they are going to be impactful players who will see some reps. You think about what J.J. Arcega-Whiteside did last year early on. He saw the football field, didn't make a big impact. I think Watkins and both Hightower see the football field and make bigger impacts than Arcega-Whiteside did last year. But if we're hearing a lot of good things out of Quez Watkins, especially in the deep ball, he's been burning some of those Eagle cornerbacks. Who do you think will have a bigger impact in 2020, Watkins or Hightower? Let me know by the pinned comment down below right now in the comment section. Okay, another player who has been, in my opinion, the pleasant surprise to read and watch film about at Eagles training camp, Shaun Bradley, the linebacker out of Temple. Yes, the late-round draft pick who was like, okay, well, they got a linebacker, but it was too late. He's not going to be very good. He has been turning heads and has actually worked out a little bit with the ones as well this week. And it looks to the point that Bradley might push for a starting job. They obviously lost Jatavis Brown to retirement just a couple of weeks ago, and he still would be like 4th or 5th on the Eagles depth chart as of right now, but he's been pushing to start. And Dave Zangaro from NBC Philadelphia had a great column talking about guys who looked good, and he mentioned that Shaun Bradley multiple times has made some very big plays, saying, quote, 2 days of practice, 2 big hits from rookie linebacker Shaun Bradley. On day 1, he clobbered Dallas Goedert, sending the tight end to his backside. Today, he took out Burnett on the penultimate play of the day. He sent the defense well to the point where Doug Peterson had to get those guys back to the sideline. Again, Can he push to start is going to be the question. We've liked what we've seen so far, but here is a guy kind of like Quez Watkins who would have benefited from some preseason games. And I mentioned how no preseason games is not going to affect the veterans, but it will affect the young guys. It could be a case where Bradley doesn't start out as a starter, but you could see week 3, 4, 5 down the line, he eases his way in there, especially if some of the other Eagle linebackers like Singleton or whatever are unable to perform at the level that you would expect from an Eagles linebacker going into the 2020 season. But really good news coming out of a training camp early for Sean Bradley. What's also good news is that these Eagle face coverings are selling like hotcakes, meaning a lot of you guys are wearing your mask and staying safe, which is important. If you've not picked up your Eagles mask yet, go ahead and grab one right now. Chatsports.com/Eagles mask. Link is down below in the description box. A ton of different flavors, as we call them, looks, styles, colors. They come in 1-pack, 2-pack, 3-pack, 4-pack, whatever you want for your Eagle face mask covering needs. It's all here, all down below in the description box. Finally, a player that I have been very hard on and do not understand why the Eagles went ahead and got has been, let's be honest, the brightest spot of Eagles training camp. The one player that everybody in uniform is talking about playing very, very well and being a surprise standout player is the quarterback Jalen Hurts. Yes, the second-round draft pick from this year's NFL draft has been the absolute star of training camp. It's not just media members on the sideline saying, ooh, look, he runs really well, because we keep seeing how great of a runner he is, which we understand, obviously watching Oklahoma and Alabama. Coaches are raving about his football IQ. They're talking about how this guy is smarter than they even initially thought at the quarterback position, because they, of course, met with Jalen Hurts and they liked his quarterback IQ, his cerebral abilities, but it's even more pronounced now. He's been working out, obviously, with the team and running the offense with both the 2s and the 3s. And running the offense with the 2s has been pretty important because he's been taking some reps away from Nate Sudfeld, meaning he could be the first backup quarterback, the backup quarterback, instead of quarterback number 3. Here's Zangaro from NBC Philadelphia on Hurts saying, quote, Hurts is clearly an electric player. He's had some great throws early in camp, but his ability to run is standing out even more. On Tuesday, he showed off his legs in the red zone, end quote. He had multiple rushing touchdowns. He was running the read option in the red zone and juked one of the Eagle defensive ends, they said, out of his socks. It was just a crazy play overall. And so it looks like this idea of this Jalen Hurts package, whether you want him to run the ball or throw the ball, is going to be a very real reality. But I think just from a Eagles backup quarterback standpoint, he's been very, very good and very, very impressive overall, which is good news right now, I think, from a backup quarterback standpoint in Philadelphia. Who's your biggest winner from training camp so far? You've been following along? You have a big winner? If you do, let me know who it is down below in the comments section. Let's get to losers. Some people have been struggling, and the first one is one that I'm going to get ripped for because I keep saying Sidney Jones is going to have a good camp, and Sidney Jones could be the nickel cornerback, and guess what? Sidney Jones has struggled a lot, and he has not been starting in the slot cornerback position, as Nikel Roby-Coleman has started there, as a lot of you guys point out constantly on my Twitter feed, that Roby-Coleman is going to start at the nickel cornerback spot. It's too early to panic on Sidney Jones, but there have been way too many plays in training camp where he looks out of position. He had a jump ball the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, where he completely whiffed, and it was an easy touchdown, over his head. He's got to get better. We kept hearing all offseason about how much he's worked out, and he's been training with special coaches, and he's gotten better. And now he's struggling again in training camp, so it's not looking good for Sidney Jones, but it's early. So all the Sidney Jones haters out there, and I don't know who you are, right? You guys tweet me all the time, at Real Thomas Mott. You should follow me also, by the way. But you tweet me saying, Sidney Jones sucks. Well, we'll see. He has struggled, though, a little bit, so hopefully it gets better. But right now, he's not been one of these starting cornerbacks, and it's shown exactly why. What is important and does not suck is this channel, because this is the kind of coverage you get. Constant, nonstop Eagles training camp coverage and updates. And obviously, we'll lead that into the start of the regular season, so go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to get to 15,000 subs by the start of the NFL year. I would greatly appreciate that. Hit the big red subscribe button down below. Okay, I want to preface my Andre Dillard being a loser here. He's not been terrible. He's not been struggling mightily at the left tackle spot. He had a really good block on a one-on-one drill against Josh Sweat last year, a swim move that he struggled with during his rookie campaign. But he's also not been receiving a ton of high praise. Now, it is important to note that they are missing Kelsey and Peters right now, so the entire offensive line is a little weird. Like Isaac Seumalo was playing the center. They moved Matt Pryor over to the left guard, so Dillard's not been next to the normal left guard that he normally has to the right side of his. So there's a little bit of continuity issues going on in the O-line. He's not been terrible, but he has been struggling a little bit. It's something to keep an eye on. Now, they do say he looks bigger and stronger and that he's better than what he was, but this whole idea of just inserting him to the left tackle spot and hoping he plays out well so far has not been bad, but it's not been good either. And so he's my guy to kind of keep an eye on, and I'll update you guys as this continues. But so far, he's not the worst loser on this list, but he's definitely been struggling a little bit more than I would have hoped that he would. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, Nate Sudfeld, I mean, as Jalen Hurts rises through the ranks and has been the star of camp so far, Sudfeld has been incredibly average. From all intents and purposes, talking about whether it's his completions, his throws, it's been a very, very average training camp so far for Sudfeld. Now, he is the number 2 quarterback right now, working out with the 2s, but as we talked about earlier, Hurts has taken some of those reps away from him, and Sudfeld's not doing anything to help himself, according to everyone who's watching and according to a couple of coaches. Bleeding Green Nation mentioned this, quote, "That's more than what we can say, what can be said for Sudfeld, who hasn't looked bad by any means, but hasn't done much to really stand out in a good way either." And that's important to note because you got to stand out, especially if you're going against Jalen Hurts. It's like just an average quarterback versus a dual threat guy who is also the young rookie they spent an early draft pick on. This could be a scenario where Sudfeld falls to quarterback number 3 and continues to ride the bench with a clipboard and an earpiece instead of ready to go with his helmet in case Carson Wentz were ever to need a break or get hurt, or we have the nightmare scenario like we had a couple years ago in Philadelphia. Who will be quarterback number 2? H down below for Hurts, S below for Sudfeld. And right now, it's early, but it looks like it's probably going to go ahead and be Jalen Hurts. But let me know what you guys think down below. All right, the final player on this list, this should be not a surprise either, it's Rasul Douglas. We mentioned the winners were involving wide receivers. It's because they're beating out cornerbacks like Rasul Douglas. Now, the good news is, regarding the Eagles' cornerback spot situation, is that Avonte Maddox has been quarterback number 2, and I've said that all offseason long he would start a cornerback, and that's what they have done. But the big thing is, we thought that Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones and the other corners on this Crayvon LeBlanc would be pushing Avonte Maddox to start and try and take his spot. Not been the case. Douglas has struggled as well. He's been very, very poor in a lot of one-on-one opportunities. Quez Watkins is a big guy who's been burning him multiple times, as Bleeding Green Nation noted, saying, quote, "Douglas, meanwhile, had a deflection as previously mentioned, but he also got burned by Watkins deep. Neither corner," that includes Sidney Jones, "appears to be pushing Maddox, who hasn't stood out either way." So it's important to note here that there are guys who are playing well, there are guys who are not standing out but not playing poorly, and then there are guys who are straight up struggling. And the Eagles are not having straight up strugglers. I think Sidney Jones is probably your big loser here on this list. Douglas has been decent, but everything that I have read says that he's getting torched on one-on-one opportunities, especially against the speedy, athletic receivers Philadelphia is now lining up on offense. So better news for the offense, I think, than the defense right now. Great news in terms of the D-line. Great news in terms of the Eagles wide receiver core, but it's been a little hit and miss with the cornerbacks and a little hit and miss with the linebackers. Give me your guys' biggest training camp loser so far. Whoever that is, let me know down below in the comments section. Overall, it has been good, right? We have winners and losers. It has been good so far. We're going to do this video probably next week or the week after to update you on who is also a winner, who's also a loser. Excited about Jalen Reagor, and that's important to go ahead and note. All time we have for today here in Philadelphia Eagles Now. I am your host and fearless leader, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.